You're watching the Aussie BIM Guru, and today we're covering part one of a mini-series which deals with how to track Dynamo usage, either in your office or your company, on a global or a local scale. So today we're looking at log file creation, so how to actually track your Dynamo usage using log files. So in summary, we're going to be looking at three parts here. So the first one today is the log files. Part two is how to combine those log files into a meaningful file that can be read by a data visualization program, being Power BI in this case. So the goal here is to generate a single report that's dynamic and sort of gives you some key statistics about how Dynamo is going in your office or your organization. So the goal today is that whenever a script is run by a user in your office or company, we want to be able to generate a journal or a log file, which will tell us a few things. So it'll tell us when was the script run, so what date and what time, who ran it, so the username, what was run, so what is the script, and where was it run, so which project or document was it run in. We also want to know roughly how much time the script probably saved, and also whether they were testing the script or if it was a real run of the script itself, in order to avoid all the testing sessions of Dynamo being tracked as successful runs, because when you're testing a script in Dynamo, you'll run it quite a lot of times. So why are we doing this? So these are the big reasons. So the main one for me is that I needed a way to prove the success of Dynamo in my office, and still need a way. This is probably the way I will do it. And this is also to secure R&D time, so research and development from executive and management level, and also to track users and identify trends. So to find out which scripts are popular, which scripts have never been used before, and I guess which users are using scripts more than others, and who's never used scripts before in the office. It's a good way to target training as well. So the methodology of what we're doing is we're going to take the Dynamo scripts in our office or our organization, and within each one, we're going to embed a custom node that we're building. And that custom node's job is basically to report statistics about the script to a server hosted folder, and it'll generate a whole bunch of log files each time that script is run. And from there, we'll look in the next part of how to put those together into a meaningful journal report. So without further ado, we'll jump into Dynamo and we'll actually build this custom node. So if you just open up Dynamo, and I'll be using version, sorry, I'll just get the about screen up. I'll be using version 2.0.3 today. I believe 2.0.2 this might work, but earlier builds I don't believe that this script will work, so you may need to use version 2. I know some of my users have been using 1 and also pre-version 1 as well, so I recommend using this version today just to ensure it works. Okay, so we're just going to make a new home workspace, and we'll just move our geometry preview off. So we're going to build our custom node outside the custom node environment. We're just going to build it as a script to begin with. So I have a Revit project open in the background. And what we want to do is we want to build all these little criteria to feed into an Excel file. So I'll just save the script in a folder. Demo. I'll just save it here. We'll just call it test. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to find out when the file was saved. So in order to do that, we need to get a date time. But what we're going to do is we're actually going to take a DateTime format, because we want to report the time in a couple of ways. So the first way we need to report the time is in the log file's name itself, and the other way is actually what's inside the log file. So we're going to take a code block with a DateTime format. If you need to learn DateTime formats in Dynamo, there's a really good resource at this link, which I will paste into the description of the video, and it deals with how to custom format strings into DateTime formats. So you'll see here, for example, that if you use D, it will give you the day of the month. If you use DD, it will give you the day of the month to 2 figures. So 1 would be 01, and DDD is the abbreviated name of the day of the week, and DDD is the full name of the day of the week. So you can format all aspects of DateTime using this syntax. So essentially what we're going to do is feed in a string, which is going to be the syntax we want. So the syntax we're using is Y, double capital M, lowercase 2ds, and then double H, lowercase 2m's, and double S. And I'll just feed that in so you can see what syntax we're getting. This is the syntax we're going to feed into our file name. So if I just run, oh, actually I'll get date time now. So what is the time right now? And we'll feed that in. So if I run this, you'll see we get this format here. So the year and two numbers for the month, 2 letters for the day, and then the time. So in this case, it's, what's the time right now? 9:42. So you can see it's 24-hour time because I've used double capital H, and it's 42 and then the seconds. So that's our file name. But what we want as well is our DateTime format to go into our log file, because we need to do a more appropriate DateTime format to deal with Microsoft Excel DateTime formatting. If some of this isn't making sense, don't worry, just follow along with the formats that I'm using and it should work for you. So for this one, we need to use another syntax. So this one we're going to do lowercase double d, double capital M, and quad lowercase y, and then we'll do a space, double H, semicolon, double lowercase m, double lowercase s, space, tt. And if we run that, you'll see we get a different format now. So we get the date, the time, separated by semicolons, and the AM or PM symbol. In this case, we don't necessarily need the AM or the PM symbol, but I'll keep it in this case just to make it easier for Excel to recognize the DateTime format. Okay, so that's basically how we're dealing with DateTime. So the next thing we need to do is actually build a source file that's going to be the way that the journal file was created. So all you technically need is just any old Excel file located in one place that everyone can access on the server. So in this case, I've just built an Excel file, and ultimately what we're going to be trying to get this Excel file to look like is the date, the user, the script, the document, the time saved, and whether they're testing. And the row after that is where all our journal data is going to go. All of this data is going to get wiped out by Dynamo when it runs and creates a new file. But essentially, we're just trying to create an Excel file from this. So all we need is just any old Excel file. And we'll just locate that out of where we're running our files from. So I've made a subfolder here called log file dump. And I've just called this file source. And I've renamed its first tab to register. And ultimately, that's where our log files will be created from. So this file will be copied. So what we need to do is get a file path so that we can path to this file. So it needs to be server located so that whenever someone accesses this file, they can reach it through the custom node, because we're not going to change this file. It's a static location. Okay, so we'll just take that. And then from there, we need to get the file name. So we're going to get the file name by file system. And I'm being careful not to use any custom nodes. And we don't want to get the extension of it as well. So we want to manage that out. So we'll just plug in a false into the with extension. Okay, and then we're going to get a file from path. And we're going to take that as well. And we get file from path. And we're going to go back and get a little bit more data now. So it's going to get a little bit complicated for a second here. We're going to have to use a bit of Python scripting, which I know usually loses people's understanding of what's happening. But in this case, we're just going to get the username first. So the username is quite an easy one. So if you download the Clockwork package, I think it's a Clockwork package, and you search for username, yes, in Clockwork, you'll get this custom node from Clockwork. And if you just right click and go edit custom node, and just take this little Python script and copy it and paste it here, it should behave as a Python script in your script still. So if I run this, you'll see that I get my username, and I can check the object type of that data as well, just to validate that it's a string. I'll run it, and I can see that it's a string. So you'll see here that this actually understands who's running the script. So that's essentially already the user identified by the script. So we have the time, we have the user. The next thing we need is what is the script being run. This one's a little bit complicated. So this one does need Python scripting, but luckily there's a public script available. So if you just go onto Google and you search for this GitHub, Amor Sol, I'll put the link in the description of the video as well. And you copy this piece of Dynamo code into a Python block. So I'll just create a Python script. So you just right click, edit. Okay, and you just take all of that, replace it, save changes, and every time you run that script, it will give you the name of the document you're running the file from. So at the moment I've named my project test that I'm running at the moment. So my script name that I'm running is called test. So that's pretty much how you get the script name, which is really easy. You can put .dyn after it if you want by using a plus, but it's probably not necessary. So you could say plus and then string and call it .dyn. And then this output should give you the script name .dyn. But in this case, I'd say just the name of the script is probably sufficient, because you can probably recognize the names of the scripts in your office. So these are Python scripts nested within the script, but you didn't have to worry really about putting too much together to get those to work, which is great. So what we need now is actually the document name. So we're going to go and get the current document. I might just make sure, I think this is the out-of-the-box document current. And we need to get the file path of that document. I'll just double check that we can get the document file path. There we go. So I'm being careful not to use any custom nodes, because ideally you don't want to put custom nodes inside custom nodes, because obviously people would need twice the number of packages to run these scripts. So if I run that, you'll see I get a full path to where this file is located that I'm running from. I'll just put a watch node in there so you can see the full name. And there you go. You can see it's getting to my demo project.rbt, but I can see where it's being run from. So it could be a project job folder. If you want to recognize how many times a script is being run from a particular project, that's how we could do it. So we have pretty much everything we need now, except for how much time was saved, and also whether it was being tested. So whether it was being tested or not is an easy one. It's just a boolean. So I'll just cross-check the order that I'm making these fields in my source file. So I think I've put testing last. Yes, testing comes last. So before that, we're going to put a number, which is the amount of time that was saved by running the script. Okay, so let's just say it's true, it's being tested. Okay, so what we need to do then is we need to collect all our data in a list. What we might do first is we'll take our DateTime format and we'll add an apostrophe to the front of it, and that's so the data in Excel won't automatically switch over to a DateTime format in Excel. So a really handy trick in Excel, if I put in say 0001 and I press enter, see my data automatically formats itself. If I do an apostrophe 0001, see my data holds its structure. So I want that to happen with my date times, because I want to format the date times in Excel myself later on when we combine all the files. So I'm just going to make a little formula in a code block. I'm just going to say x, so I'm going to get apostrophe plus x, and then I'll feed that into my date time. And there you can see that it's just our date time with that in front of it. Okay, so now we're going to consolidate all these elements. So our date time, our username, the script that's being run, the document we're running from, the time being saved, and whether it's being tested. So this should create a little list of data that we're going to push into Excel. So you can see that that's all our fields. And from there, we need to create a header for our Excel file as well. So we're basically just going to create a header row for each of those. So we're going to create a code block, and we'll just call them time user script document time saved and testing. And it's important that these don't change, because we're going to collect this data later on, and we need to understand what this data all has in common by using these headers. So this is what's going to go into our Excel file on top of our data. Okay, so we'll just take that. And now we need to copy our source file as well. So we're going to get a copy file node. And what this needs, it needs a file to be copied. So that's an easy one. So the file is going to be the file from path. That's what we're copying. The destination path is the name of the file where you want it to be copied to. So it technically can rename the file as well whilst it's copied. And then overwrite will be true, just in case the log file is created twice, which is almost impossible because of the date time. Okay, so destination path's a little bit trickier, so we need to use a string replace node to figure out what our new path should be called. So we're going to be replacing the file path. So in the file path, sorry, we're going to be replacing the file name, and we're replacing that with the DateTime format plus the username. I think that's the format we'll use. So we're going to do x plus underscore plus y. Okay, so x is our DateTime format, y is our username, and I'll just freeze my copy file node just so you can see what we're getting there. So that's essentially our log file name, and it shouldn't ever be able to be occurring twice because the time is always increasing in seconds. So that's essentially a unique file name that we're creating. Okay, so we need to replace that file name with this. Okay, so our new file name or path is going to be basically the same as the one before. I'll just get a watch node so you can see it. It's the same, but instead it's got the log file name. Okay, so we're going to feed that into our destination path. And at that point, that should copy the file. So we'll just do a test of that. So I'll just run my node. And there you go. You can see we've just created a log file, but at the moment there's no data being written to it. It's just a pure copy of our log file source. So we want to delete that file just because it was testing. And what we need to do now is actually export our Excel data. But it's really important that we let our script wait until that file's copied before it writes the data. So we need to use a special node here called a pass-through node. This one also comes from the Clockwork package, but essentially all it really is a bit of text, so a code block. So we're just going to take that code block and we're going to go back to our Dynamo script and paste it out. So it's really just a way that the package tries to make these more convenient, but the pass-through node basically works without the need for a custom node holding it. So essentially it says pass through something, but before you do, wait for this. So it essentially tells the script to wait before something else can go beyond this point. So we're going to pass through, let's see, what should we pass through? We'll pass through the file path. So we need to pass through this because we're going to export Excel data to a file path. So we're going to pass this through, but not until the file's been copied. Okay, and now we want to export Excel data to this file. So we're going to use the export Excel node, and we're going to pass through the file path. So we know our sheet name is register, and we're going to be starting at column 0 and row 0, and we're going to be overwriting our data. Okay, so we're going to have our sheet name is register, starting at column and row 0, and where we are overwriting. Okay, so for our data, we need to just consolidate these two lists into one, so that we've got our headers, but then we've also got our data. So we've got our headers that we created before, that's that list of headers, but then we also have our data that goes below it as well. So essentially this will create two rows in Excel. So we're going to feed our data through, and that's pretty much our log file creator built as a script. So if I run this, there you go. You can see it's generated that data. Notice that it's reformatted everything to be just uniform in column width. It doesn't really matter because we're going to be passing this through another script anyway. So it can be pretty raw unless you need to open the log file and look at it. But you can see there that all our data's come across. So the time of day came across, who it is, what the script is called, the document path, how much time we saved, which at the moment is 0, and whether we're testing. So we'll close that. So what we need to do is put this into a custom node now that we can insert into scripts when we run them. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take all of this, right click, create custom node. So as soon as I do that, I get prompted to name the node, to add a description, and also to add a category of where it should go. So I'm just going to name this node, let's just call it log file creator. And for the description, you can write as much as you want. Let's just say this node will generate a log file to, and then you could put in the file path of where the node's going to save the log file to. So we'll just say, there we go. And you can see we can add lines to it. Use with care, add inputs first. When in doubt, talk to the BIM manager. And that would give a pretty friendly description to whoever's running the node. At this point, you can add an add-ons category as well. Note that it usually will only contain the custom nodes you've already got. In this case, I recommend naming it after a custom package that you're going to build for your company. So let's just call my package Aussie BIM Guru. Okay. And at that point, we should be able to create our node. So I'll just drop this down and I'll say, okay. Okay, so now you can see we're in a custom node here. And what it's done is it's packaged all of this into a node. But notice we've only got an output, so that's not ideal. So what we actually need is we need some inputs and some outputs. So what we're going to do is go back to the start of our script. And we need to get two inputs. The first one is how much time are we saving, and the other one is whether we're testing it or not. So we're going to search for input, which is unique to custom nodes. And we're going to put what we want to call it, time saved, and what format it is, which in this case is a double, which is an integer in principle. Sorry, is a number, not an integer. And then we're going to make another input for whether we're testing. So in this case, we're going to say testing, and the data type is a Boolean, and the default will be true. Okay, and then we need to reconnect these. So at this point, if I save my custom node, I'll just save it to my desktop for now because we haven't built our custom package yet. But you can see straight away now we have two inputs. Obviously I have my description as well, but there you go. So that you can see by default we're saving 0 time and our Boolean is set to true. We can make an output as well if you really want, but it doesn't really matter in this case. But we'll just give our output a name so people understand what it is. So essentially, we'll just call it Excel data so people understand what they're seeing. And we'll just close this, and there you go. So this is basically a custom node that we can put into a package. So if you want to make your own package, it's quite simple as well. So just make sure that you understand where your packages are being saved to. So I believe that's under settings, manage node and package paths. And you'll have this location here, probably in app data typically. So this will contain your packages in Dynamo. So in this case, I've just navigated to Revit, Dynamo for Revit 2.0. And this is where all your custom packages typically get saved. Note that most of these can be copied to other users' machines, and it would be almost the same as installing a package, which is my recommended deployment method for sharing this log file. So what we'll do is we'll just go packages, publish new package, and we're going to make a package called Aussie BIM Guru. Nodes by the Aussie BIM Guru will be the description, and let's just go version 0.0.1. Group is optional. I'll just put it under the group Aussie BIM Guru. And that's probably enough. So what we need to do now is add at least one node. So we'll add a log file creator. And we're just going to publish locally. So we don't want to publish this to the online package manager because we're just making this for ourselves and our company. So we'll publish locally, and we're going to save in our packages folder. So we'll select that folder, and it will say that we've successfully published that package. So at that point, if we go to packages, you can see now I have an Aussie BIM Guru package, and within the Dynamo functions I have the log file creator. And not only that, but also in my packages here I should also have an Aussie BIM Guru package as well, and there you go. So I have my own package now. So you can copy this folder to other people's package locations, and they'll actually gain this node. So let's just do a quick test. Let's just say that we want to use this in this script that we've just built. Let's say every time I run the script, I'm saving an hour, and I'm not testing. This is a real script. Doesn't matter what the script is doing. I'm just going to rename this script. So I'm just going to do a save as, and let's just call this the best scripts ever. And essentially we should get a log file in the location that will tell us how much time we saved, and that we were not testing it, because I've set that to false. So I'll just run this. And there you go, you can see that we've run this in the best script ever. It was me. I just ran it at 10:02 p.m. And you can see that here's our project that we ran it in. So we were just running it in demo project. I saved 1 hour and I wasn't testing. So that's pretty much it. That's a log file generator created. And you can just basically take this and copy it into any old script really. I can open up an actual script. I won't show you really how my scripts work in my office, but I'll just open a more complicated one. So you can just copy this to clipboard, and I'll just copy this in to a real script. So there it is. I'm just going to freeze the real script itself, but if I ran this script, you can see that I've generated a more complex script name, because this is a real script from my office, but it's still the same project. I saved an hour and testing was false. And if you have a way that you can more accurately measure the output of how much time you've saved, it's good to do so. So say for example you're placing views on sheets. You might know that you save about 5 seconds every time you put a view on a sheet. So you could actually go and count the number of views that were moved, and then push it into the time saved by multiplying it by how many seconds that is. So say 0.001 of an hour. So be creative with how you actually generate that number, and think about it in each script you build. But essentially that's it. So pretty much what that's doing is just creating log files in this location. And you can see that these are all individual. So I can actually open them myself and have a look at them, which is quite helpful. But in the next session, we're going to look at putting them all together into one big report, so that we can feed that into Power BI. But essentially that's it. So not too tricky, a few advanced techniques there, but hopefully you followed. So in the next session, we're going to be looking at actually generating the log file as one, and then putting it into Power BI in part 3. So hopefully that was a useful technique, one that gets you thinking about how to track Dynamo usage in your office, and hopefully you'll be watching the next 2 parts as well. Part 3 will be quite exciting, so I'm using Power BI to visualize my data, so hopefully I'll see you by that one as well. If you're not already following or subscribing, feel free to do so. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, take care, bye.